in the People's Republic of New York City. The question in the chat room is whether I have New York values. You know what? New York values is a touchy subject for me because I agree with Senator Ted Cruz. There are many things in the People's Republic of New York State and New York City that I disagree with. But New York values is something that is exhibited every day. I mean, listen, here in New York City, on 5th Avenue and 28th Street, don't ask me how I know this, it was in a news story, there's a private booth where gentlemen can relieve themselves sexually on the street in the comfort of their own booth. This New York City Council is making it easier for people to publicly urinate without penalty. A whole host of things. The former Speaker of the Assembly, Shelley Silver, was just sentenced to 12 years for corruption today. So you know what? No, I don't have those New York values that Ted Cruz has been talking about. And I gotta be honest, folks, I love Ted Cruz's message. It was a pure conservative message. And I hope, and I have optimism, that Donald Trump starts to reach out to those affected conservatives who supported Ted Cruz ardently. And there was no stronger block than the Ted Cruz campaign supporters. Donald Trump's block is hugely fanatical and successful. And I say fanatical in a good way, that they are a solid block of votes. I don't think anybody's going to waver. If you are a Donald Trump supporter today, or if you were one yesterday, you are Donald Trump 100% all the way. I hope you can convince women to come over to your side. I hope you can convince conservatives to come over to your side. I hope you can convince minorities to come over to your side. I hope you can convince Democrats to come over to your side. Because remember, the lessons we learned in 2012. Mitt Romney, as it was said on Fox News earlier today, won 93% of Republicans. He also won self-identifying independents by a few points. And yet he still lost because, let's face it, there are more of them, there are more of Dem than there are of us. There are more Democrats out there than us. So how will Donald Trump's message resonate in a general election? Will the populism spill over to those who will be disenfranchised by the rigging of the election for Hillary Clinton? And will those young Bernie supporters show up for Hillary? Will they stay home? Will they show up for Trump? Who knows? I don't know. That's why we have an election, and that's what we're going to look to find out as the 2016 campaign season transitions from primary to general. Now listen, Donald Trump has a long time to do this. The primary season goes till June 7th. He then has 6 weeks until the convention thereafter. We're talking about a good chunk of time where Donald Trump can rehabilitate himself in the eyes of many people. But let's face it, folks, Donald Trump is a target-rich environment. If you're conservative and if you're a social conservative really, and you don't like that he's been married multiple times and that he's cheated on his wives, then you may be loath to pull the lever for Donald Trump. Or you may be worried about the economy so much that you're willing to overlook it and do that. But let's be real. Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign will go dirty. They will go crazy dirty on Donald Trump. And there's a lot of material there. And a lot of it has come out in the primaries. The discussion that Marco Rubio had about Trump University. I mean, just this week, claiming that Rafael Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz's father, had a hand in the JFK assassination. Come on! It's a target-rich environment out there, folks. They're going to have a little bit of trouble. And there's going to be some pushback from conservatives who were on that never Trump bandwagon. Those 24 or so conservatives that supported Senator Ted Cruz and were loath to do anything with Donald Trump. You know what, folks? It's a long road. This is why, presidential campaigns are marathons, not sprints. And one thing we've all seen is that the political tides can turn. Whether we're talking about an October surprise, whether we're talking about a full-on frontal assault on Hillary Clinton, whether we're talking about intermediaries and surrogates doing the attacking while the candidate stays clean, there clearly is work to do. Donald Trump has to heal some wounds and unify. And you see, he started taking that message in his subsequent speeches since the New York primary, really. He has stopped calling Ted Cruz Lion Ted. He applauded him and complimented his style and his fierceness on the campaign trail. And right now, you may see a pivot from Donald Trump in the next few weeks, given that his only campaign challenger is John Kasich. I mean, let's get real, folks. John Kasich is the last man standing against Trump. Well, let's see what happens there. John Kasich is saying that he's in it till the end, and while I applaud his perspicacity, and I applaud his stick-to-itiveness, it's time to pack it in. You're not doing yourself a service anymore. You're not doing the party a service. You know what? It's time to pack it in. Donald Trump, I believe, will stick to his message of being betrayed by politicians, because Hillary Clinton is the ultimate career politician. She's never had a job in the private sector, folks. Come on. If you are a believer that you need an outsider, your only choice is Donald Trump right now, because he's kind of the outsider. I say kind of because of his ability to donate with the best of them. But as far as holding office and having a private sector experience, you have that. Someone who's a CEO is an executive. If you want someone with executive experience, he's going to say he has that. And he's successful according to him. I mean, listen, you got to put Trump University and the Trump Golf Course in Scotland and all that stuff aside, and, you know, look at the overall track record, the totality of the evidence, as it were. Donald Trump has to make that case. Donald Trump also has to make the case that there is room in the big tent for conservatives. He has not exhibited conservative values in his life. Let's put it that way. He's not exactly the most faithful husband. He is not exactly the most pious candidate you could find out there. Although, you know, he likes, what was it, 2 Corinthians or something like that? You know, I don't know if they walked into a bar with him, but he needs to reach out to those people, not based on the differences. He doesn't have to believe in what social conservatives believe. He has to create an environment where social conservatives have a place at the table, where the states' rights people can come and say, federal government, stay away from this, and he has to support things like that. Donald Trump's track record of being a small government conservative is not there. So it remains to be seen whether he'll be able to reach out. And there will going to be plenty of surrogates who are going to reach out and try to heal the party. We need a healing moment. We need a safe space to come together and unify against those big bad Dems out there. We'll see if that moment comes at the convention, before the convention, somewhere else. The way this campaign's going, it's not going by the numbers at all, so we'll have to see. We're just about at halftime, folks, here on the show. I want to thank you for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Baradelli. Russ Gallo is off tonight. He's off from us, but he's not working. He's not working for us, but he is working somewhere else. So I want to thank you for listening. And if you missed any part of the live show on Spreaker on Tuesday nights, you can listen to us at any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, WJHC Talk 107.5 FM in beautiful Jasper, Florida, on the Florida-Georgia line. I will not be singing any of their songs. On K98 Talk, on High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, and on ICRN, the Internet's conservative radio network. And if you miss us on any one of those rebroadcast outlets, you can also check us out on demand anytime you want at iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbay, TuneIn, Player FM, iHeartRadio, and you can discover us on Google Play Music on their brand new podcast section. Check us out there, folks. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have our interview with Wayne Hanson, who is the chairman of the board of Wreaths Across America, as we kick off Military Appreciation Month. And we'll be back later to talk a little bit more about the fallout from the Indy primary. And we're off to the races to the general election after that. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines. We'll be back right after these brief words.
I'm Vito.
And I'm Vito.
and we're from WNJC's The Vito and Vito Show.
Every Friday at 1 p.m., you can hear Vito and Vito bring you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservatives who are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, freedom, and individualism from Brooklyn, New York.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vito and Vito Show, and check out our blog posts and articles at vitoandvito.com.
Vito and Vito Show every Friday, 1 p.m. on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. In Brooklyn,
it's nothing but the truth.
There's a movement in healthcare today. It's a movement of people that's ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. It's people like you and me, who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you need to be a part of it. Liberty HealthShare is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty HealthShare is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. Choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement. Together, we're changing healthcare for good. Go to www.joinlhs.com or call 800-722-8041.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save
your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air. Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines and joining me on the phone right now. It's a pleasure to talk about something that's not election related. I have the honor of introducing to everybody a Vietnam veteran who is the chairman of the board of Wreaths across America, talking about Veterans Appreciation Month and bringing awareness to veterans issues and just in general thanking veterans for all that they've done for us. Wayne Hanson, why don't you tell everybody about Wreaths Across America, the organization that you are the chairman of the board of?
When Morrill Worcester, a wreath maker from Maine, had some roughly 5,000 wreaths left over at the end of the holiday season, and he recalled visiting Arlington Cemetery as a 12-year-old, and they didn't know what they were going to do with the wreaths, so he said he would like to try to take them down to Arlington and place them on the headstones of the veterans buried there at Arlington. He checked with the cemetery and checked with the then Maine State Senator Olympia Snow, and the cemetery said, well, nobody's ever done anything like that before, but if you'd like to bring them down, bring them down. And I call it the power of one. Morrill got one truck, and just the one individual himself, and a few family members drove those wreaths down to Arlington, placed them on headstones at Arlington, and he was so moved by that every year from 1992 until 2005, he brought down 5,000 wreaths every December and placed them in the cemetery at different sections. The cemetery would assign him sections. And in 2005, some of the volunteers that were there to help, a handful, there was an Air Force photographer who took a picture of the wreaths, and it had happened to snow. And he put that picture on the internet, and nobody believed that this had been going on for so long because they hadn't heard about it. And Morrill never sought any publicity for doing it. It was his personal tribute to the veterans. But when that picture went around the world on the internet, people started sending him money, and he was a businessman, and he couldn't accept the money, so he had to return the money. And his family got together and said, well, if we can make this impact and thank our veterans at Arlington, why can't we do it at other locations? And ergo, the family started a nonprofit, Wreaths Across America, and we went from that one location at Arlington to last year we placed